Have you ever observed that when you get older, you feel less inclined to socialize? You might not even be able to pinpoint exactly why, yet there's a growing sensation that being near people isn't as enticing as it once was. Maybe you find certain conversations exhausting, or perhaps you just don't feel the same connection with others that you used to. If this seems familiar, you're not alone. In fact, avoiding people as you age is more prevalent than you might. Consider that there are some powerful reasons behind it. In this video, we're going to discover 5 surprising reasons why people tend to retreat socially as they get older, even when they don't consciously notice it, from variations in priorities to emotional fatigue. Each of certain elements can indirectly push people towards solitude without them entirely understanding why. Yet here's the good news. This doesn't imply you're becoming anti-social, and it surely doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. In many times, it's actually an indicator of emotional growth and self-awareness. Make sure you stay with me to the conclusion. It's understanding these causes can make you feel more at ease with the changes you're feeling, and even assist you to make better decisions about how you wish to communicate with others. Moving forward now, let's get started. Number 1, increased desire for peace and quiet. As the years pass, something shifts. The hustle and noise that once felt exhilarating or important now appear more like a distraction than a source of energy. Talks that used to be entertaining, small talk at gatherings, chatter among pals, or meaningless discourse about topics that don't really, things start to feel tired. It's not that you don't care about people anymore, but rather that you value peace and silence in a way you never did before. Take someone like George, a 72-year-old who spent most of his life surrounded by persons, family, co-workers, neighbors, and long-standing buddies he used to thrive on, being involved in everything always, willing to lend an ear or engage in conversation. However, when he became older, he saw that his patience for noise disruptions and brief interactions starting to wear thin. He found himself gravitating for peaceful mornings, solitary hikes, and tranquil evenings with a book instead of social outings that left him feeling tired. At first, he wondered if what was wrong with him was being antisocial. But then he discovered he was simply savoring something. Something had always been there, yet had never been a priority: silence. So why does this? Improving the brain's tolerance for overstimulation naturally reduces with age. That indicates loud environments, chaotic talks, and unneeded drama become more mentally draining than they used to be. Studies suggest that older adults tend to feel overwhelmed by social noise faster than younger persons, and as a result, they begin to prefer places where they feel at ease rather than overstimulated. It's a transition from craving excitement to seeking internal calm. If this sounds familiar, it's crucial to recognize that it's not a defect. It's an indicator of emotional and mental expansion. With age comes the awareness that not every discussion is worth engaged in, not every social event is a good use of time, and not any connection needs constant attention. Safeguarding your peace becomes more valuable than filling your calendar with obligations that no longer serve you. For George, adopting this change was a tipping point. He ceased forcing himself into talks that felt like an obligation, and instead spent more time with the people and activities that actually offered him peace. And instead of feeling bad for desiring silence, he learned to appreciate it. The fact is, as you mature, your energy becomes a more valued currency. You no longer feel the desire to spread yourself thin, attempting to keep up with every social anticipation, and that's not loneliness. It's wisdom. Number 2, changing priorities and beliefs. As time goes on, you start to realize that what mattered to you in the past doesn't always matter anymore. The things that used to pull you, entering social circles, professional networking, fitting in, or simply going along with group expectations, start to feel less. Instead, your priorities change toward what actually adds significance to your life, rather than what just fills up space. Think about someone like Margaret, who spent decades being the social glue. In her family and friend groupings, she never missed a birthday, was always the first to planned gatherings, and made it a priority to keep connected with everyone. But as she neared her 70s, something shifted. She found herself wanting deeper, more meaningful talks instead of simply catching up for the sake of it. She started prioritizing the ties that felt fulfilling rather than those that just seemed expected. Why did this happen? Over the years, life experiences shape what we cherish, the ongoing desire to stay socially active, keep appearances, or be everywhere at once fades. Instead, there's a higher focus on personal well-being, emotional fulfillment, and connections that feel genuine. Research even suggests that as people age, they inevitably begin to filter out interactions that feel superficial or one-sided, not out of animosity, but because their emotional energy is more selective. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It just means you become more intentional about who and what you devote your time in. And that's actually a good thing. You're no longer struggling to keep up with the fast-paced, surface-level interactions of the past. Instead, you're focusing on quality over quantity, generating space for relationships that provide calm, pleasure, and genuineness. For Margaret, this shift wasn't just essential, it was freeing. Instead of stretching herself thin, attempting to keep up with every single social expectation, she learned to embrace the relationships. Things actually nurtured her spirit. And as she did, she found something surprising: a better sense of fulfillment, less social stress, and more time for the things she actually enjoyed. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue developing good articles to enlighten and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 3, emotional fatigue from earlier experiences. When you age, you start to realize that not every relationship was as meaningful as you once thought. Over the years, you've likely been through disappointments, betrayals, or relationships that took more than they gave. And even though you may not think about these occurrences every day, they affect how you approach folks. As time goes on, pick someone like Robert, a man in his early 70s who spent his earlier years always being there for others. He prided himself on being the person people could turn to, the friend who listened, the family member who helped, the colleague who stepped in when needed. Yet with time, he started to feel drained. He began to see that many of these connections were one-sided. He was donating his time, his energy, and his emotional support. But when he needed the same, he often found himself alone. This realization didn't happen overnight. It built, constructed slowly. After years of putting others initially and eventually, Robert started doing something he never assumed he would, pulling back, not because he didn't care, but because he was exhausted. He wasn't angry, he wasn't bitter, yet he was tired of always being the one to carry the emotional weight. And here's the deal. This happens to a lot of people as they age. When you spend decades investing in connections, you start to understand who actually values you and who only keeps you around out of convenience. And when you discover that your emotional energy gets greater, precious, you no longer feel forced to keep connections alive that don't bring you peace. Psychologists call this emotional burnout, the weariness that stems from offering too much without receiving enough in return. It's why many older folks become more protective of their time and energy, not because they despise individuals, but because they've learned the hard way that not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. For Robert, this move was life-changing. Once he stopped trying to please everyone, he now had space to prioritize himself, and instead of feeling guilty about withdrawing, he realized something crucial. The folks who actually cared about him understood, while the ones who didn't gently went away. Thus, if you find yourself stepping back from certain partnerships, as you get older, realize this: it's not selfish, it's self-preservation. And sometimes choosing peace over obligation is the healthiest thing you can do. Number 4, decrease tolerance for shallow or unpleasant persons. As you become older, something shifts. You becoming significantly less inclined to tolerate unneeded negativity, drama, or superficial conversations. The things that once felt like harmless social habits, gossip, complaints, or persons fishing for validation now feel like a waste of your time. Kidnap. Linda, a 68-year-old lady who spent most of her life being patient with everyone. She had friends who continually raged about the same difficulties but never altered anything. She had buddies who thrived on gossip, continuously talking about what someone else was doing wrong. For years she listened, nodded and engaged in talks that deep down didn't intrigue her. But as she became older, something became evident. She simply didn't have the patience for it anymore. She beginning to recognize that these discussions tired her. They left her feeling annoyed instead of fulfilled. Then one day she found herself walking away midst discussion, not out of disrespect, but because she no longer wished to engage in something that didn't contribute value to her life. So why does can happen? Because as you mature, you get a stronger grasp of what truly issues. The need to be courteous for the sake of being courteous disappears. You no longer feel the pressure to entertain bad people or force oneself into conversations that don't correspond with your values. Research even reveals that as humans get older, they naturally gravitate toward connections that giving them calm while distancing away from people that drain them. It's not about being rude, it's about protecting your energy. And if this sounds like you've probably observed something intriguing, the moment you stop tolerating negativity, many of those partnerships decay on their own. Those that relied on you to listen to their complaints, they find someone else to vent to. The ones who thrived on gossip, they cease including you because they can know you're not interested. And this is when the real freedom comes in. Moment you stop feeling forced to engage in these draining conversations. You start spending your time with things that genuinely offer you joy. You find yourself spending more time in nature, reading novels, or simply enjoying the calm. And instead of feeling isolated, you feel more at peace than ever before. For Linda, this was a turning point. She stopped attempting to force connections that didn't serve her and started focusing on the ones that did. And as she did, she realized something powerful. She wasn't losing anything. She was acquiring clarity, tranquility, and a stronger sense of self. Thus, if you ever feel like your tolerance for small conversation, negativity, or needless drama has departed, realize this. It's not a terrible thing, it's growth. And sometimes the nicest thing you can do for yourself is to simply move away. If you're still viewing this video and finding these ideas valuable, please remark number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and encourage you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, a stronger sense of mortality in time. At some point you start to feel it. The awareness that time isn't unending. It's not about fear and it's not about remorse. It's simply there, realizing that every moment is value because not everything is worthy or time anymore. Take Richard, a 74-year-old man who spent most of his life putting aside things till someday he had friendships that weren't fulfilling, commitments he kept out of habit, and interactions that felt more like procedures than real links. For decades, he assured himself that he had plenty of time to focus on what truly mattered. Yet one day something switched. He woke up and knew that someday is no longer guaranteed. This awareness affects everything. You cease feeling guilty for saying no to invitations that don't interest you. You stop chasing approval from those who don't genuinely help you. You start filtering your time more carefully, not because you don't care, but because you finally recognize that your time is the most valuable thing you have. And here's the fascinating part. This isn't a bad thing. Study suggests that as people age, they're becoming more choosy with their relationships and experiences. It's called the socio-emotional selectivity theory, which basically implies that when you realize time is short, you focus on what genuinely brings meaning. It's why so many older adults ceased focusing broad social circles and instead nurture only a few deep, meaningful relationships. This realization hurt Richard hard. He started doing something he had never done before, picking himself. He no longer sit through long, meaningless phone calls out of responsibility. He no longer forced himself to engage in conversations that didn't interest him. Instead, he started waking up every morning with one purpose: to spend his time on things that genuinely made him happy. And here's the truth. When you reach this moment, everything changes. You start live more consciously. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself. And the best part, you feel lighter, freer, and more at peace than ever before. Thus, if you've found yourself withdrawing from needless chats, cutting out duties that don't bring you joy, or just choosing solitude over emptiness, socializing, don't question. It's not loneliness, it's wisdom. Final thoughts. As we conclude out this video, take a minute to contemplate which of these factors resonated with you the most. Have you sensed yourself stepping back from certain connections or activities as you've become older? If so, you're not alone. This is a natural aspect of existence, and it's not something to feel sorry about. It's growth. It's the realization that your time, energy, and peace of mind are precious. For many folks, aging brings a newfound clarity. You start to see things for what they are. You no longer feel the urge to explain your choices to others. You don't forcing talks that don't flow naturally, and most importantly, you begin to comprehend that walking away from certain partnerships isn't about solitude. It's about making space for what actually counts. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's this: your life belongs to you. It's good to emphasize peace over obligation. It's all right to say no, and it's okay to let goof anything that doesn't add to your happiness, because at the end of the day, you deserve to use your time in ways that provide you fulfillment. Thank you for joining us. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Make a remark below and share one item you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts are vital to us, therefore don't hesitate to share them. Reading your remarks gives us immense motivation and encouragement. If you loved this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your donation helps us continue providing good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for viewing, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.